Breaking news, another NBA superstar lost due to injury. We'll take a look at what that's going to mean for the schedule ahead, especially in the Western Conference. Plus, the NBA sends a memo to teams on their betting scandal, and ESPN's Bobby Marks makes the case that the Hornets may have sold a lemon to the Miami Heat. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. So just the other day, we saw, yesterday actually, Lakers superstar Luka Doncic was announced that he would miss at least 1 week, and in a very tight race in the Western Conference. We know anything, any type of injury, any type of setback could be the difference in playoff seeding out there in the Wild West. But now it's not just Luka. Minnesota's Anthony Edwards out for a minimum of 2 weeks with a right hamstring strain. Again, everything so congested in the Western Conference. We saw 2 games separate the 2 seed from the 8 seed. These types of injuries, while they aren't long-term injuries, can absolutely make the difference in a team's standings, can be the difference between the playoffs and the play-in, can be the difference between getting the right matchup, which is going to be so important in the West, deep to go on a deep playoff run. But let's take a look. I do think the Wolves lucked out to a degree. They have a difficult schedule coming up, but it's lighter than you would typically see for a West team. Tonight against the Denver Nuggets, obviously that's tough to not have Anthony Edwards. Then they get the Lakers at home, just like Denver's a home game, but they get the Lakers, but that will be the Lakers without LeBron James, without Luka Doncic. Gabe Vincent just got hurt, has a foot in a walking boot. Adu Thero, Maxi Kleba, Jackson Hayes. The Lakers are absurdly injured at this point. So, again, not as tough of a matchup for the Wolves as it might look like on paper. Then you get a few lighter games here. You get the Charlotte Hornets. You get the Brooklyn Nets. Now, particularly the Hornets, I think their offense can be potent on any given night. But still, even without Ant, the Wolves have to feel good about their chances in those ones. The Knicks, okay, that one's tough. Then you get Utah, who I was fairly impressed with what we've seen so far. But again, not an unwinnable game here. And then at Sacramento and at Utah to finish off 2 weeks. And then at Sacramento again. So there's a lot, even without Ant, there's a lot of winnable games. So if he can make it back, you look here, Monday, November 10th, and then there's a little break, actually a really nice break. You don't see a lot of these in the NBA season. Monday to Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. That would be the target for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Certainly not here on the back-to-back. Sunday to Monday at Sacramento, at Utah. Probably not going to try to push Ant to return there. But since you have 3 days in a row off right here, bring Anthony Edwards back. Boom, you get a game against Sacramento. Second night of back-to-back against Denver. That's a little bit tough there. Maybe even you sit him for the Sacramento game so he doesn't play 2 in a row, depending on how the hamstring is feeling. But still, nice that you get a 3-day off stretch there. Plus, again, for a Western Conference team, this is a fairly light schedule. Yes, you have Denver and New York in there, but everything else is winnable, especially with the Lakers being even more injured than the Wolves are right now. Everything else should still be in play as a potential win for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's the silver lining. Now, the challenge with something like that is, what if you do drop a few of those games? Whereas if you had Ant, you're almost certain that you're going to win. Like, let's say you drop the game on Monday to Brooklyn. Brooklyn gets hot, and if you had Anthony Edwards, you would have found a way to see it through. But without him, you flip that into a loss. That's where it could particularly be dangerous. But I think there is a decent shot that the Wolves can survive this injury and be just fine, because they just so happen to have a lighter portion of their schedule, especially with the Lakers being so hurt. But nonetheless, not good for the NBA, an NBA that is already dealing with so many injuries around the league. Luka, LeBron, Ant. We saw Fred VanVleet out for the season. We've got Jason Tatum already out. Will he come back towards the end of the year? We'll see. Tyrese Halliburton is out. So many players already out due to injury, and now we add a superstar like Anthony Edwards to the list. Not ideal for the NBA, who is still dealing with off-court stuff. We've seen some incredible on-court things happening around the league. The basketball has been phenomenal, but unfortunately, there's been a lot of attention, and rightfully so, paid to what's happening off the court, and another star going out isn't going to help that situation. All right, let's get into the NBA's memo they sent to teams about the betting scandal, and Bobby Marks, his comments about the Hornets and what they actually knew before trading Terry Rozier to the Miami Heat. We'll get there in 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed. This is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin. All right, take a look at this. This is from the Miami Herald. Bobby Marks talking about, should the Hornets have told the Miami Heat before trading for Terry Rozier that he was under investigation? Bobby Marks saying it's a gray area. Donnie and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Mentioned as part of NBA trade clause, teams are required to disclose medical information that would prevent a player from playing basketball, but there's nowhere in the NBA's operations manual that he's found where it says the NBA is obligated to disclose information if the player is being investigated. But if I was the Heat, I'd want to know. The Hornets have had the statement or taken the stance here of, we're not saying anything about anything. We're not saying whether or not we knew that he was being investigated. We're not saying we knew about any of this stuff going on at all. That is their stance right now. To me, if they didn't know, they would just say they didn't know. So how much you want to buy it, but Bobby Marks saying, I'm sure the Hornets knew somebody on the roster was being actively investigated. It's a gray area. I think the league is going to have to take a long and hard look at when players are being investigated and are part of trade discussions. Do they have the authority and morality to disclose that information? Because on the other end, legal will say, wait a minute, if we disclose it and the guy's not guilty, then we've just harmed the trade. It's a tough spot to be in. But if you're the Miami Heat, you can't help but feel like you've been wronged in this situation. Like, you traded for a guy that now is under investigation, can't play for your team, and you gave up a draft pick in order to get him what could be potentially a very valuable draft pick. Specifically, when we're looking at not just could they use the pick, but what are their trade assets that they have available. Because of the Stepien rule, this greatly limits that pick that they owe in the future, greatly limits the ability of the Miami Heat to make moves. So if you're Miami, you're feeling like you were wronged here. Like, hey, the Hornets, they're saying they're not going to say, but let's face it, they probably knew that the guy was under investigation. They traded him anyway. The NBA certainly knew, and they had to process the trade, and nobody said anything to us. Shouldn't we have been warned, like, hey, this could be a possibility when we were a buyer on the trade market? On the flip side, there's privacy, there's all those sorts of things. And what if, guilt hasn't been determined? If he's found not guilty and you blow up the trade because of it, it's, again, a tough spot to be in for the league. So as Bobby Marks is saying, they're going to have to take a real look at this, and the NBA is already starting to do just that. A memo that was obtained by Shams Charania that was released to teams explains, given the spread of legal betting to the majority of the United States, the recurrence of integrity issues across sports, and the emergence of novel betting formats and markets, this is an opportune time to carefully reassess how sports betting should be regulated and how sports leagues can best protect themselves. The unusual betting on unders for Terry Rozier was detected in real time because bets were placed legally. We believe there is more that can be done. So essentially, they're making the argument here. First of all, I love the way they're trying to spin this in a positive way. This is an opportune time, not like, oh my God, we better get this figured out, guys. This is an opportune time. This is a great moment to take a look at these things. But then you add in, it was detected in real time because bets were placed legally. Essentially, making the argument that we've been talking about on here on the Basketball Bulletin, that you could look at this and say, well, the betting is probably going to take place regardless. Now, there is certainly much more accessibility to betting now. People can do it on their phones and all of that, right? We all have betting sponsors and all of that. It's all wrapped in to the sports industry, and there's no removing that at this point. I don't see that happening. But the NBA arguing that, hey, these bets were placed legally. They were done in the daylight. And that means we were able to see them. We were able to see that it was happening and identify that, hey, something fishy is probably going on, rather than these bets being done in the dark as they would have been prior to legalized gambling. And then maybe we never see this. And then we've got a problem that's just growing and festering. Now we actually can see the problem and we get to address it. And that's certainly the positive spin on the industry and all of that right now. But the NBA seems to be taking the stance that we need to regulate this better, particularly in the realm of player props. They want to see that looked at. With sports betting now occupying such a significant part of the current sports landscape, every effort must be made to ensure players, coaches, and other NBA personnel are fully aware of the risks. We're also exploring ways to enhance our existing internal and external integrity using AI. They want to look at things like that. And again, in particular, they want to focus on proposition bets on individual player performance involve the heightened integrity concerns and require additional scrutiny. That Adam Silver has mentioned this before. It seems like that's what the NBA is going to target here, is trying to adjust the way player props are handled. I think particularly when we're looking at player props, if we're talking about end of the bench guys on two-way contracts, those certainly can be easier to manipulate. And so they want to take a look at that, maybe change the way it's all regulated. But that seems to be the focal point right now from the messaging we've heard from the NBA. Is obviously they want to handle the Terry Rozier situation. They want to see where that is all going to go. They're still dealing with the Kawhi Leonard situation, the Chauncey Billups situation. They're dealing with all of this, but at the same time, they want to take a look and say, how do we try to prevent this from happening in the future? And you can make the argument that the NBA had to know when they opened up legalized gambling. And it's not just NBA. It's obviously across the sports world. But if you go down this path, you're going to open yourself up to problems like this potentially occurring. So the NBA had to know that this could be an issue. But what they would like to do is try to do everything they can to make sure it doesn't become a persistent problem. And in their minds, it's the player props that need some tweaks, need some adjustment in order to try to limit the opportunities to be manipulative in these situations. So we'll see how the league proceeds from here. This is going to be very, very big for Adam Silver's tenure as commissioner of the NBA. I think he's got a lot on his plate right now that they absolutely have to get right as they set the course for the future of the NBA. Again, we're seeing amazing basketball being played on the floor. Victor Wembanyama is blocking shots like crazy. He's got more blocks than most of the teams have combined in the NBA. It's crazy. You've got amazing stuff happening. Luka dropping 49, Austin Reeves dropping 51. I know those are Lakers players, but you've got incredible games happening. You've got OKC playing back-to-back double OT games. All kinds of great stuff happening on the floor. The NBA needs to get this right so the focus can stay on what's going on the court. So Adam Silver, he's got to figure out the Kawhi situation. That's got to be handled properly. None of this is getting resolved anytime soon, but now he's got to deal with his betting scandal as well. And I got to tell you, Adam Silver, he's got to bat 1,000 in this situation. He has to be perfect in his handling of this. And if wrongdoing is found, I've said it before, he has to drop the hammer and set the precedent to put the fear of God in anybody that might consider trying to do this stuff again moving forward. But I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Appreciate all of you, especially those of you who made it all the way right here to the end. Please make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. A great way to help us keep growing. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.